are you coming out or not?
Yeah, Ellen, quit jerking us around and come out already!
What? What is the big deal? I've got a whole hour.
ご機嫌いかがですか? Watanabe Dan desu. Today on Backward Engineering Your Script, we're going to look at the whole world of personal advocacy and how to make that work from both a commercial and an artistic standpoint at two different budget levels. The issue that we're going to talk about is the emergence of the gay subculture from being very, very marginal and hardly ever seen, or if seen, presented primarily in a negative light, to something that is very, very mainstream and generally presented very positively. The two works we're going to look at is one very commercial example of something that was a milestone in television history, and that is the Ellen Degeneres Show puppy episode, which was her coming out episode. The second thing we're going to look at is an independent film made in the late 80s that was at the height of the AIDS epidemic and represented where independent film was struggling with this issue. Let's start with the Ellen Show. The Ellen Degeneres Show had been something that had worked. It had been moderately popular, but it hadn't been really something that was a linchpin on the television dial. Ellen had spent the entire time of playing her character in this as someone who was a frustrated romantic who never met the right guy, or if she did meet the right guy, it was someone who was already affiliated with someone else. Long past were the days when an actor or actress playing a gay role meant that they might be putting their entire Hollywood career at risk, as Harry Hamlin and Michael Onking certainly did when they did Making Love back in 1982. Let's not forget that that movie was secretly very bad, and so it had a reason for not working. But that was still the general notion. In fact, a network executive went to Ellen and said, couldn't she just get a puppy instead? So the episode was to be called the puppy episode. And despite a lot of consternation from the powers that be, the network decided to actually go ahead and make this brave stance. But let's not say that the network made this brave stance completely in a foolhardy manner. No, there was careful publicity buildup. There was a lot of positive advocacy on the part of Ellen appearing on talk shows and kind of preparing audiences for what might be happening. Further, the network made sure that it stacked the cards in favor of this show doing well. And the way they did that was by hiring a host of guest stars.
Excuse me, how much are those melons?
I'm sorry, I had something caught in my throat. Generally, they're 89 cents a pound, but we're running a special this week for lesbians, 59 cents a pound. You might want to stock up.
Attention shoppers, red tag special in aisle 2, gay woman in aisle 5.
I think he means you. Ellen, did you see they're having a special on melons? Excuse me, miss, would you like to try one of our new granola bars? They're the perfect snack, whether you're on the go or in the closet.
Ellen, over here.
That'll be a lesbian 29?
Well, the rest is history. The show absolutely killed the week. It pulled in a super high rating. Ellen was proclaimed a heroine, and the show is now down in the annals of television history as being one of those really, really important events. When I first started teaching, I would show the episode, and everyone laughed with it, everyone enjoyed it, and it played beautifully. That is until fairly recently. And seen through today's eyes, I'm finding that at least for my students who are in both community college and four-year, they have trouble with it. Now, I'm not saying that they don't like it. I'm not saying they don't appreciate it. Here's some of the issues that have come up about it. First of all, the show is now slightly over 20 years old. When a piece of art is between 15 and 25 years, it will look its absolute worst because it will be out of date in terms of whatever it was trying to say socially, because either the elements it talks about have been incorporated or they've been rejected. Secondly, it's going to look its worst because everything in it is out of style. The hairstyles, the clothing, the furniture, it looks old and passé, not nostalgic yet. At 25 years, a program develops a certain patina, a certain romanticism to it, and that romanticism can carry it forward into rerun eternity. The primary one of its faults is that when we see it now, it still is giving in to a little bit of a homophobic tendency to apologize for characters who are not like the others. And we see that in Ellen's very own hesitation about her coming out.
Why can't I say the word? I mean, why can't I just say... I mean, what is wrong? Why do I have to be so ashamed? I mean, why can't I just say the truth? I mean, be who I am. I'm 35 years old. I'm so afraid to tell people. I mean, Susan, I'm gay.
Yes, they make a joke at the beginning of the episode. Yes, they play around with some of the other characters, in particular her gay friend. Note how her gay friend, actually seen through today's eyes, is a grotesque stereotype.
You know what you need? A melon baller.
I'm gay. So, where would I find one of those melon ballers?
Oh, Ellen, at the grocery store, I'm so proud of you.
He's giggly and very, very sissy and not presented in a way that honors it. In fact, Ellen is made to look good compared to him because she relatively passes for straight. The show also does something that I think, from a minority standpoint, I find offensive, and that is that there's a joke played between Ellen and Oprah.
You don't understand. Do you think I want to be discriminated against? Do you think that I want people calling me names to my face?
To have people commit hate crimes against you just because you're not like them?
Thank you.
To have to use separate bathrooms and separate water fountains and sit in the back of the bus.
Oh, man, we have to use separate water fountains?
At the time, I understand that was a way to sort of show that there's a commonality in experience. But seen today, it's now, oh, yeah, right, white girl, you're now having to worry about being treated like other minorities. And it now seems insensitive. And it now seems that Oprah, in fact, is taking on the part of an apologist for Miss White Lady. So no, this was not something that was a concern back in the late 90s, but it is a concern now. And it is something that causes the episode to feel uncomfortable. There's another area, and that is that Ellen's friend, there's one friend who seems nervous about the fact that Ellen is coming out.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I love learning new things about my friends, and this is new.
Okay, so you're okay with this?
Of course I am. It's funny, because the other day, I was saying that I don't have enough lesbian friends.
I find this troubling because it's true that now we would look at that as being, oh, please, you knew Ellen was gay. How could you be a jerk towards her because you always knew this? But in the late 90s, remember, this was still something that people were grappling with. It's not as if you had a lot of gay characters on TV, or if you did, maybe they were serving a plot point that they were going to be gay this week and straight next week and whatever, like it was in soap operas, or it was used as a way to make diva-type female stars get to chew up the scenery because their son was all of a sudden dying of AIDS. It was being used very inappropriately, I feel, at that time. And so it's understandable that a friend would be questioning this on a number of levels, including, well, we're supposed to be friends and you have kept this from me. Why? Did you not trust me? Well, certainly she proves that she wasn't necessarily trustworthy because she's not necessarily cool with it. But by the end of the episode, she clearly is. And I was upset seeing it now that there wasn't a little bit more time given to Ellen saying, you know what, I have been dishonest with people and it was wrong of me. Yes, she kind of says that to her shrinker.
So tell me, when did you first realize that you might be gay?
With Susan. I mean, that's the first time, absolutely. That's the first time I've ever felt this way.
So what do you think is...
Well, except for also freshman English. We were reading the works of Gertrude Stein.
So that naturally brought up all these issues?
No, actually, the girl sitting next to me brought up all these issues.
So, okay, that was the first time.
Wait a minute, no. Actually, in junior high, I really liked this girl a lot that worked at the snack bar at the roller rink. But I thought I liked her because she gave me free curly fries.
So that means she was lying to herself a lot. And that means that she was using the men in her life as a way to deflect, as a way to be more socially acceptable. I find that to be troubling, actually. I find that the fact that her being closeted was all her being a victim. No, she had agency in that. She had an ability to have been more honest to the outside world, and she chose not to. And so maybe the fact that she can't keep her business open, that she's gone from being the owner of the coffee shop to being merely one of the workers there, is something where, because she wasn't honest with the universe, that the universe was slapping her back. Now, I also want to say that the show must be commended for being daring to do this, because they certainly risked losing advertisers, and they certainly risked the potential for boycotts to happen, which of course didn't. People always assume that the audience is more bigoted than it really is, especially if they live in a big city. And I must say that it still gets more laughs than complaints, but it is definitely true that a lot of young people are now looking at the show and feeling that it at once doesn't go too far, or there's elements in it that if they are indeed gay and they are struggling with their own coming out issues, it's no longer quite the 100% positive thing it used to be, particularly if you're from, shall we say, a non-Caucasian group. The second film we're going to look at is Parting Glances. And Parting Glances is a movie you should never have heard of. It only made about $500,000 at the box office, but that was actually a huge hit because I don't think the movie cost more than about $10,000 or $15,000. Parting Glances was a movie about a gay man who is losing his boyfriend, who's moving off to another country for his work. And as a secondary character, we see that he has a friend who is very, very popular on a new innovation called MTV. This part was played by Steve Buscemi in his first movie, and we see why he would become a star. The movie also co-stars Kathy Kinney, who would become everyone's favorite nightmare boss lady in the Drew Carey Show.
Don't worry, a few years down the road, we have lung cancer, heart attacks to look forward to.
It's different when you're 50 or 60. Impending death doesn't freak you out as much.
I bet it does. I bet it's a fucking drag, even if you're 80.
It was written by a guy named Bill Sherwood, who directed it as well. And it was made for, again, nothing. And it made a profit on that. And it was such a renowned picture that Sherwood would get an offer to write the remake of Born Yesterday that was being done. Ultimately, he died before that happened. But this was a movie where he delved into the gay community of New York circa the mid-'80s. When plague had hit, when bathhouses were closed down, when you would still get on the subway and see graffiti everywhere, and you had a burgeoning artistic community where people would do weird and outlandish things. And we got to see all of that up close and personal. We got to see the tail end of the Fire Island summers with the fat guy who is annoying, but then obviously isn't getting plague because no one wanted to sleep with him anyway. It's a beautiful little jewel that captures that time, that energy, that fear, that paranoia. And we see in this scene an interesting interaction between a kid who was just coming out and was faced with the promise of sexuality that was there because of the 70s and the fear that sex equaled death.
Your parents know you're gay?
Sure. Told them when I was 16.
16?
Yep, I had a boyfriend in high school. They freaked. You know, the usual bullshit. How could you choose this kind of lifestyle, Peter? I said, hey guys, it chose me. I mean, your dick knows what it likes. You reach puberty, you don't fucking decide which sex you like, you ask your dick.
We see that there's at once love and compassion, and we find out, and it's not a surprise, but it's played as a surprise, that the guy who's losing his boyfriend was actually the guy who's the HTLV3 victim's lover, and that they had to break up because he didn't want to be responsible for what could happen to his friend if they were in the least bit incautious. Remember, this movie was made before HIV was even identified. So there was no way to even test if you were safe. So the only way that you could be sure was not to sleep with someone who even knew if protection worked. So the movie captures that spirit of the era. And seen today, yes, it has its compromises. Yes, it has its boring moments. Yes, it has its uncomfortable bits where you see a closeted gay man who married a woman, an Indian woman, in order to get her a green card. So that's in the background, but it's still there. So it's dealing with an entire society, and for me, it's more genuine than the Ellen Show. But then again, it could be, because it didn't cost a lot. It was speaking only to the already advocative. So it had that benefit of being a low-budget film. So what does this mean for you as a writer? Do you go for mining your personal life and do what Ellen did in a highly commercial way that might in the future not look real? Or do you go the way Bill Sherwood did and do something that's so intensely personal but is ultimately only remembered by people who knew it existed to begin with? I'm going to say there is no right answer on this. It's what you feel comfortable with, but know that you don't have to necessarily do something that's big commercially to make a big impact. Because certainly Sherwood's work, for those of us who know it's there, still has meaning, and I still use it in writing classes to show how this can be done. And the Ellen Show is still important for me when I talk about the history of TV. So art is a win-win, and that's actually the bottom line.
Here she is. Okay, Miss Morgan, I have just one question for you. Are you gay?
Yes, I am.
And sign right there. And initial here. And initial here.
Oh.
And sign here.
Wow, I didn't know it was so complicated.
Oh, congratulations. Susan, there's your toaster.
Oh, thank you so much. Fantastic.